Hi, this is Michael William Denny of ThunderShamanism.com, and today I want to talk to you about what is apprenticeship. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding out there, and I find it in the Western world. And I am specifically responding to somebody who left me sort of a statement and a question, Yarkofin. And this was in my first video about apprenticeship and all the things you get. By the way, I tallied it up. Those who choose to work with me as my student or my apprentice, we work on a weekly basis. If you choose to do that, you end up saving $3,000 minimum on, because you're going to have access to all of my DVDs, all of my teachings that otherwise you have to pay piecemeal for. And then on top of that, of course, you get to work with me on a personal level, either by phone, Skype, or email. So Yarkofin says that, these aren't his exact words, but he said something along the lines of, listen, I know you've got a business run, you have to make money, but I've never heard of an apprentice ever having to pay a monthly fee, and then he emphasizes, in any discipline. Now, that's not my experience at all. And listen, I don't know Yarkofin. I have no reason to, think that he's being in any way, untruthful. But, if in fact he trained as an apprentice with, spiritual masters, I don't know what that discipline would be. So first we have to make a distinction between, spiritual training in the sense of like shamanism, techniques, power, learning how to create, learning how to manifest, especially when it comes to some of these really deep, intricate subjects. And if you've never trained with a master of a tradition that has an unbroken connection into prehistory, and that's very important. It's not something new that somebody's made up. It's not some new age guru who sits around and talks all the time, but somebody who actually teaches you techniques and things that you can do to actually change yourself and change your reality. And any technique that has an unbroken connection into prehistory, you will find that there's a very specific teacher-student relationship. And for those that really want to learn, they're called apprentices. Now, in times past, or still today in many traditional cultures, what the apprentice will do is the apprentice will actually go and live with the master, and will do their cooking, their cleaning, will build their house, their cabin, their shack, whatever it is. They'll go out and get food. They'll go out and beg for money. They will work their tails off, because that's, there has to be that exchange of energy. There's this understanding that the master has intense wisdom and they are willing to sacrifice their life for it. Now, I don't ask that of anybody. First of all, I don't want that. I've got my own life, and the last thing I need is somebody in my house. So, but there does have to be an exchange of energy. And I'm going to tell you something. If there's any teacher out there that does not require an exchange of energy of some kind, that teacher either doesn't know what he's doing or is somebody you need to stay away from. Because there is a spiritual law in the universe that there has to be an exchange of energy. Now, if what the teacher has is of value to you, then the universe requires this exchange of energy. Now, early on, when I was training with one of my teachers, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this, because I paid a lot to learn the things that I was learning. And this particular one was a shamanic martial art, which was very intricate and extremely powerful. And I won't get into the specifics of that, but very powerful. And I had this student who came to me, and I decided I was going to teach him for free. And I ended up learning something of value, because what ended up happening is that student became emotionally attached to me. And it became difficult for me to teach them, because I've got to be able to look at the student and say, listen, what does the student need? What do they need most? And that sometimes means giving them something that's difficult for them to do. That means not giving them some, teaching that they think they want. I have to look and see what is best for them. In order for that to happen, I have to be without personal agenda. It was hard to do that because this kid had a personal agenda with me, and he wanted to be close to me. He wanted to be my friend. He had this sort of daddy thing going on, and things got very confused. And bottom line was that I wasn't able to teach him. And I learned, and I had a personal experience. I was, busting my ass teaching this kid, and it wasn't sticking. And the universe was really clear. I had other teachers that had told me, listen, if you're going to teach, you got to charge, because that's the rule. There has to be an exchange. But now I learned something even more important, which is that there has to be a clarity when it comes to the teacher not having a personal agenda. Now I learned something, and I've learned it because there are other teachers who offered to teach me for free, and I learned this the hard way, is that no matter who the teacher is, and I don't care how spiritually enlightened they are or claim to be, they will have an energy exchange with you. If you're not going to pay them with money, then the teacher is going to want something from you, your love, your devotion, your respect, something along those lines. And that is very destructive. And a lot of people fall for that, because there's a lot of people, especially in the West, who don't understand what the traditional student-teacher relationship is, and they think that a spiritual teacher is going to love them and make them feel good about themselves, which they can, of course. But that's really, when somebody wants that, it means that they didn't get something when they were a kid. And I'm not judging that, because this is part of our society. I had to go through my own stuff, go to therapy and all that. I had to work all my stuff out. So I'm not judging that. But when somebody comes to me and they complain about having to pay, I know that there's going to be a problem. Because that means that they're going to see me as something other than a teacher, and then, things get, weird. And the bottom line is it doesn't serve the student. So whenever a student comes to me and asks, why do you charge? First thing I say is to protect you from me. Because when you pay me, I don't have any personal agenda. You're just paying for my time. So let me be very, very clear also. Payment, you're not paying for the teaching. The teachings are priceless. There isn't any amount of money in the world out there that can pay for the value of what these teachings have. What you're paying for is literally my time. And I have to look at, how much money I need to make per hour in order to be able to do, this work, to write and to do these free videos and all that kind of stuff. By the way, while I'm on the subject, if somebody has a problem with money and they can't afford to pay, no problem. I have put so much video out there. And even if somebody took, one of these teachings like the Hool breath or Thor's belt, those Qigong teachings, and just focused on that, you could master everything. So you don't need, a lot. So if somebody's worried about, I'm not giving, I'm not teaching because I'm charging, listen, I've got plenty of free stuff out there, and, you just got to put the time in to go find it and look at it. But there is something that happens between a teacher and a student which can't happen in any other scenario, and that is a transfer of power. Now, that isn't something that I consciously do. And there are times when I can do that, but 98% of the time, this transfer of power is coming from your guides who are transferring it through me to you. And that is how the universe has set it up. The teacher is the symbol, is the gateway to your guides, to the celestial masters. And so this, in every tradition, again, that has an unbroken connection into prehistory, there's always a transfer of power. A transfer of Shakti. And so this happens, when people work with me, whether it's by phone, Skype, or in person, this happens naturally. So if you're interested in that, I hope I've cleared that up. This is why I charge. Trust me, if it was about making money, there are so many other ways for me to make a lot more money than this. So, please don't give me that trip about, I'm taking advantage of people. No, listen, we pay for cell phones, we pay for dental work, we pay for cars, we pay for cable television, we pay to go out to dinner. Listen, you pay for all kinds of things. The difference between working with a teacher and spiritual worship is that worship should be free. That's totally different. People come together, whether it's in temple or in church or, a meditation group or, a drum circle or a healing circle or whatever it is. Those things should be free, and you don't have to charge for that. But when you're learning specific things from a teacher, specific techniques which take time and effort, and not anybody can do it. And you have to have a teacher to explain to you what it is and to guide you through the process of transformation. You've got to compensate them for their time. Let me say one last thing. Let's say even if I was independently wealthy. I was a millionaire and I didn't need money. I would still do this work. I would still teach people, but I would still demand that they pay. And I would take that money and I would give it to some kind of charity, because it has to cost you something. I've learned this too. If it doesn't cost you something, you don't learn. And you don't learn because you don't value it. This is why I charge people ahead of time. You know, he was asking monthly fee. Yeah, that's because if you pay me at the beginning of the month, I know you're going to show up for those 4 sessions, regardless of what comes up. And stuff will come up. You know, you're going to go through some difficulties, some challenges, because you're going to change and you're going to grow. And I know you're going to show up because you've paid for it. And you're going to listen and you're going to do it because you paid for it and it cost you something. If you give it out for free, you know, I've seen the students show up, they don't show up, they kind of, you know, half-ass it, they don't really learn. And, you know, that's the whole point. It's about you learning. So that's it. If you're interested in apprenticeship, as I said earlier, you know, people who work with me save something like $3,000 plus in all of the video teachings, the DVD teachings, the books, everything else that I'm going to supply to you for free just because you're my apprentice. So really, I mean, unless, you know, you don't have the time or you don't have the interest, there's really no reason not to. I'm looking for 5 apprentices, 5 students that are absolutely committed to learning as much as they can. Of those 5, hopefully I'll get 2 who have the ability, the knowledge, and the commitment and the maturity, the discipline to really learn everything that I have, which is a lot. And I gotta get it out. I gotta give it to people, and I gotta find people who will take this and turn it into a discipline and then do what I've done and expand upon it and make it even greater for the next generation. So click on the links below for apprenticeship. Click on Celestial Qigong if you really want to learn. If you're wondering what is he talking about, what is this power he's talking about, click on Celestial Qigong. If you want the most powerful energy work that I've ever experienced, click on that and learn that, and you know, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So until next time, my friends, that's it for now.